I think after the US and Israel, India is the largest user of drone. The Indian military has been for a long time because Israel and India are the only two countries in the world that have active conflicts going on for the last 20, 30 years.
Mr. Arjun Naik, CEO at Scandron. You work with the army. So what sort of logistic solutions are you providing for them?
The Indian Army has a very unique problem. We have the highest battlefield in the world. Today, for supplying material, whether it's food, whether it's fuel, whether it's ammunition, they either use porters or they use mules. So in these areas, something that would take a porter can carry maybe 10 to 20 kgs and would take 5 to 6 hours of climb, a full day to reach. For us with the drone, it's about a 10-minute flight time.
So what has been your most challenging drone flight or testing?
Out of Malari, again at very high altitudes. To reach that point was about a 3-hour drive. We had the drone take off and we had to climb 700 meters and land in a place where no drone has gone. Helicopters also don't go there. One of the unique features about our drones are completely autonomous. We don't require pilots to fly our drones. There is no AI ecosystem in drones. People talk about AI coming in, drones doing everything, they will find the target, kill the target, do everything all on their own. Right. That is only in the movies. The reality is far, far away.
What do you think? Do you think imports at this moment should be reduced or, when we look at drone applications per se?
So the reality check is India is not poised to manufacture electronics today.
Hi and welcome to another episode of Tech Talks. Today we have Mr. Arjun Naik, CEO at Scandron, to give us a rundown on the drone industry in India and how their applications in defense and agriculture are making a change. Hello, sir, and welcome.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for giving your time for us. Let's begin with understanding a bit about what your opinion is on the drone ecosystem in India and how is Scandron contributing to that?
So I think India is one of the largest markets as far as drones are concerned in the world. India has been using drones for a very long time, especially since the Kargil War, mostly for the defense use, as with most countries. And as commercial applications come on, I think India is well placed to dominate in terms of technology, in terms of application, in terms of usage in India at least. There are some schemes out by the government, the Drone Didi, where the government is empowering female agriculturists to use drones for spraying. And similarly in surveillance, etc., it's already been there in the defense for some time and with paramilitary forces. And of course, logistics drones is something that is new on the scene, and that's where Scandron kind of specializes, especially in high altitude logistics drones for the military. And Scandron is also the first and only company in India to have a DGCA type certified logistics drone.
Right. So when we look at the Indian ecosystem, as let's say if we compare to a global ecosystem, where do you think India stands in, let's say, promoting drones in the future, and how is the government, contributing? And even in the union budget, Drone Didi program did get, a few budget allocated to itself. So how do you think that progress is happening?
So I think India started a little late in terms of getting regulations into place. You had a lot of import drones, especially from a company called DJI, which kind of is the dominant commercial drone player in the world. And India has started. We started with imports. And now the government has, is giving us a lot of incentive to indigenize all the components and the drones. The government has put into place very good policies. The DGCA is doing a good job in terms of type certifying companies. So, you have a lot of companies, you will have a lot of drones flying around, and the DGCA has a good process in place to ensure that the drones are safe, they're manufactured to a specific standard, and they follow the rules and regulations. So the government has definitely put in place a lot of good measures to promote the drone ecosystem in India.
Right. So when we look at Scandron in promoting, let's say how the government is also promoting Make in India so much nowadays, how is the company contributing to that? How much of components are being manufactured, within India, and how much is being imported from outside?
So I would say in terms of components and in terms of design 100% Scandron designs in India at the office that we're sitting in right now. In terms of components and fabrication, 90% of the drone is designed and manufactured in India. There are few high-end components, which there are few specialized companies in the world that manufacture them. So we source them from them, and of course, none of them are from our neighbors, which the Indian government focuses on.
Right.
And yes, so we are well poised towards that.
Right, right. So the components are mostly getting manufactured here and being, put in the use case here itself. And one use case that, apart from defense as well, there has been agriculture. So can you give us a bit of a brief down on what are your applications in agriculture and how is it supporting India's rural transformation?
So agricultural spraying drones all the rage right now abroad and in India.
Right, right.
And Scandron has a DGCA type certified logistics drone. So it's important to note that all the logistics drones or any drone that flies today in the commercial airspace has to be type certified by the DGCA.
Right.
So right now in the agricultural sector, there are quite a few companies that have type certified drones. And Drone Didi is a good way to empower women, also to push agricultural drone-based agricultural spraying practices into the
Right.
field. It's much more efficient. It's probably about 30-40 times more efficient than manual spraying. It's safer for the person doing the spraying, and it creates a lot of jobs. So definitely, the agricultural
Right.
point is really good on that. We have a type certified agriculture drone, which is also participating in the scheme.
So, in terms of employing these drones itself, do you directly get in touch with the farmers who are employing these drones, or is it through another agency, or how does it work?
So our marketing strategy per se has been we do one-on-one.
Okay.
Also with the
Mhm.
farmers, there are road shows, trade shows that take place based on agriculture. We participate in those. Secondly, there are co-ops, fertilizer companies. There are agricultural unions. So we let's say partner with them to push the drones out into the field. And of course, any government-based program that comes out, we try to participate in that.
Right. And in terms of spraying, let's say not maybe 100% of the field would require a spray. Do you have any tactics for, let's say, targeted spraying? Only maybe do a rundown of the field and see where all the spraying is needed and then have it rather than, spraying throughout the field. Is that something that you look at?
So that's actually a very good point. Suppose you're spraying pesticides, right?
Right.
The entire field might not require it. Portions would. So Scandron actually has a AI-based system where we actually map the fields ahead of time, and then you can actually see where the pestilence is, where it's not there, and then adjust your spraying patterns accordingly. This is a separate service from the spraying part, and when we do sell the drones, either directly or through partners, this is something that we stress on. We have some channel partners
Okay.
that we work
Hmm,
with,
hmm.
and we always try to tell them that try and use this service also, because then the spraying is more efficient.
Yeah, definitely.
So we have also done some joint trials with some pesticide companies
Okay.
to find out what the best concentrations are to spray over different crops.
Okay. And in terms of, let's say, promoting more, eco-friendly crops, etc., is there anything that can, contribute from the drone side? Maybe when we're looking at targeting only required and not excess spraying and stuff like that?
So definitely, pesticide use will
Yeah.
reduce
Definitely.
with drones, because with manual spraying, it's not that accurate when you're kind of saturating.
Hmm,
When
hmm.
you use drone-based spraying, you're not saturating the area; you're doing targeted spraying.
Right, definitely. And when we look at the clients and the partners that you've been getting along with, apart from agriculture, what other spaces do you delve into? And who are your basic clients in general?
So Scandron has two verticals. We have a manufacturing vertical, and we have a a drone as a service vertical.
Okay.
So a drone as a service vertical focuses primarily on the steel industry and the oil and gas industry. We've been doing this for a long time, and we have long-term contracts with companies like IOCL, Reliance Industries Limited, where we perform drone-based inspections for these companies. On the manufacturing side, our primary products are logistics drones, where we have all the way from 5 kgs, 15 kgs, 20 kgs, 40 kgs, 80 kgs, 100 kgs, and 200 kg drones, payload drones. And working with the defense forces, all our drones are high altitude certified. So we have flown at heights of 70 to 18,000 feet, carrying payloads of 50 to 80 kgs. This is specifically for the armed forces.
Right. So within the armed forces, you work with the army, the navy, I'm guessing, and So could you just give a bit on a rundown on who all do you work with, and let's say what sort of logistic solutions are you providing for them?
So the Indian Army has a they are a primary defense provider that we work with.
Right.
So the Indian Army has a very unique problem. We have the highest battlefield in the world, right? The Himalayas. No other country has this.
Right.
So the logistics requirements are very different. Today, for supplying material, whether it's food, whether it's fuel, whether it's ammunition, they either use porters or they use mules. And that is slowly being phased out. So a lot of times in a lot of areas, our troops, they're living in a lot of discomfort. They're living in very difficult conditions. And they have basically dry food. And the water that they drink is basically snow they collect from outside, melt and drink. And they live for months at a time like that. So in these areas, something that would take a porter can carry maybe 10 to 20 kgs and would take 5 to 6 hours of climb, a full day to reach. For us with the drone, it's about a 10-minute flight time.
Oh, wow.
So we have focused a lot on developing high altitude logistics drones for the defense industry. And to support that, we actually have a full-fledged manufacturing facility in Leh, Ladakh.
Oh, wow.
So all our high altitude drones are designed there. We manufacture them there and we test them there.
Okay, so your testing site is there in
for the high altitude operations.
For the high altitude.
Yes. Besides that, we are doing some work with the Army in Pokhran. The environment is completely different. The drones designed for that area are completely different. Right. And we are also now starting to do some work with the Navy. Okay. So logistics drones is a fairly new idea. And not everyone understands the limitations and the benefits that come from this and how to use them. So part of what we have been engaging with the forces is to work with them and help to understand what their situations are and help them to understand what and how drones can actually benefit them.
Right. So I'm sure there's bound to be some sort of challenges in terms of, let's say, security, being discreet when you're working with the military itself. So what are these challenges and how do you deal with them?
So one thing with the Army is, of course, you can't take any photographs or videos wherever we operate. And they're very strict about that. And anything that we do capture, we have to give it to them as soon as we're done. Second, in terms of how we share information within the organization is also limited.
Right.
So people working on specific projects, we limit them to those projects. Right. And we sensitize our people a lot when they work in high sensitive areas in terms of what safety protocols they should follow. Nothing should be posted on social media, so on and so forth.
Right. So how many testing facilities do you have in total and where all?
So our primary drone test facility for low altitude areas is nearby. It's in Bangalore itself. Yeah. It's about a half an hour drive from this office. And our high altitude test facility is in Leh. Okay. So these are the two primary test facilities that we have.
And I remembered you mentioning something in Port Blair as well. Is that one of your client testing facilities?
So Port Blair, the Andaman Nicobar Command has a very unique, situation, right? So they have a lot of troops deployed in different islands.
Right.
And sometimes even to send a small laptop for a distance of 10 kilometers, they either have to wait a week for a ship to go, or if it's essential, then it's very expensive to send a ship and they have to send a large ship just for one laptop or, something small like that. Mm-hmm. So having drone operations would definitely be much more cost effective and efficient for them. Mm. So one of the unique features about our drones are completely autonomous. We don't require pilots to fly our drones. Mm. So operating them becomes very easy. And our drones are designed to have minimal user inputs.
Okay, so what are these specific areas where you, let's say, implementing AI and, what are these different techs you're implementing to make them less reliant on manual power? So we have spent a lot of time testing our drones, which is one of the reasons we took some time to come to the market. Our drones are very large and they're very difficult to fly if you have to fly them manually. So it requires extensive training. Mm-hmm. If we make specialized training an integral part of the drone, then the user has a very difficult time in implementing that because they need to find and train people who will be able to fly that and have the aptitude to do it. Right.
So, for example, our landing systems, our drones have pinpoint landing and they do soft landings regardless of whether they have landed there before or not. They do some basic obstacle avoidance even during landing. So if there is something in its path when it's coming to land, it will abort the landing. When the drone is flying, it makes its own decisions on whether it has enough battery to reach the area that it's going. For example, in hilly terrain, you tend to have a lot of winds.
Right.
So suppose you're going a distance of 10 kilometers and suddenly you start getting a lot of headwinds.
Yeah.
So your battery consumption goes up. So when you're like the 4 kilometer mark, the drone will say, okay, I'm not yet at the halfway mark, but I've used up 60% of my battery.
Right.
So I'm not going to make it. So it will turn around and come back.
Oh, okay.
So these are the basic safety algorithms that are built into it.
Right, right. I think, over time, I'm seeing this pattern where even within like the army or the military itself, they're implementing more and more tech-based solutions and, cutting down on manual power.
Correct.
Even for like the mules that you mentioned,
Correct.
they've been employing now robotic dogs and replacing the mules. So how do you think in the future, they're going to employ, depend more and more on tech-based solutions? And, is that how the future is becoming for India?
So, yes, definitely. And as it should be, our troops are already in harm's way a lot. And the harm's way is not necessarily the enemy. It's just the terrain and the geography, which causes them a lot of issues for them. So the more you can ease their lives and you can make their lives safer by using technology for sure. And drones, robotic mules are definitely among right there.
Definitely. And there's, I think, a lot more even. So I've had a chat with an army major before who's doing development for, like robotic or tech-based solutions for the army itself. And they've been employing a lot of, let's say, walking mines and a lot of, robotic solutions for that itself. So I think that's going to take a turn with time.
Yeah, sure. So, for example, our logistics drones also. So, what ends up happening with a lot of discussions, right? As we solve one problem, they have the next problem, right?
Right.
Right. So now it's not only logistics. It's like, okay, can we also put some armaments on it? Right. So we have a platform, might as well use it for multiple things. So multi-role, multi-use is how drones will become in the future. So it's not specialized for one task, right?
Right. So there's also another question out of curiosity, I would say. Let's say you have troops in specific areas in the mountains and like their location is supposed to be discreet. So how do you make sure that the drone reaching them does not give away their location, and how does that work?
So the army has tactics to employ. So they will typically not land the drone exactly where the troops are. They will land it some distance away in a situation like this. In peacetime, it doesn't matter. They bring it right there. And in sensitive areas, the drone will deliver a little distance away. So it doesn't give away the troops' position. And then they collect it from there. Right.
And what are these modifications and stuff that you have to make in the drone itself to make it, weather resistant and certain types of, harsh winds and so on?
So one of the difficulties with drones and with anything that flies in the air is it's different. It works differently when you fly in the plains, and it works very differently when you fly in the mountains. And a lot of drone companies have a difficulty understanding that point.
Right.
At altitude, at least the altitudes that we fly at, above 15,000 feet, the lift capacity of the drone is 50% compared to what it is down here. So we have to cater for that. Second, wind conditions are very high.
Yeah.
So the drone, so if your drone can lift 100 kgs, even at altitude, you shouldn't load it with 100 kgs. So when you have large gusts of wind, 50, 60 kilometers per hour, the drone has to have additional power available to it to adjust itself. Right. If you load it to the maximum and your foot is already down on the gas, just to stay in the air, then you have nothing left to react to different conditions. So there is design planning, there is operational planning, there is flight planning, and then there is common sense. And you need all of this to fly at altitudes.
Right. Interesting. So when we look at high altitude testing, for example, like, do you require certain sort of permissions per se in testing in certain areas, or like is it open for testing?
So definitely at altitude in India, it's all controlled by the army, the airspace. You need permission to them. Typically, we work with different armed formations for testing, and there are very strict requirements on when we can fly, where we can fly at times, and typically some army personnel accompany us when we do the testing to ensure their safety and ours. Right.
Interesting. So let's say when we look at in general, like drones are, spreading to many different sectors within India itself. People are employing drones for solar power and so on. So apart from defense and agriculture, what other areas are you expanding to, or maybe would like to expand to in the future?
So on the commercial side, we are on a business to business model. I don't think end user commercial delivering to each apartment or
Right.
each house is there yet. That technology will take some time. It will also take some time for it to be economically viable to do that. We live in a country where there are 2 chemists and pharmacies on every street,
Right.
and they'll give you a 10 rupee strip of paracetamol for free.
Yeah.
They'll come and deliver it. So drone deliveries are a little more expensive comparatively. I know there are companies working on aggregation, so they'll work with 3-4 providers together and move it from point A to point B. So it's not one packet, but for multiple companies. Our focus is on a business to warehouse model, or with large mining companies or steel companies or solar power companies, helping them move material within their premises. For example, solar parks tend to be very large. Refineries tend to be very large, and material movement takes time within that. So that is where we are pushing for implementation of drones to start with.
And when we discuss different use cases of these drones that you make itself, let's say, could you share an example of maybe an expedition carried out with the army, or you were mentioning partnering with Reliance for their drone systems as well. So maybe a few examples that you carried out.
So, for example, Reliance, we have specialized drones where we do internal inspections. So when they're in a shutdown state, they have very large furnaces, tanks, so on and so forth. Normally, an oil tank will take maybe a month for them to inspect. With the drones, we do the same thing in 2 hours. So a lot of efficiency comes in. During the shutdown, for example, they need to change filters, they need to change equipment and sensors that they do periodically. And sometimes they end up waiting 7-8 hours for a crane. But we have drone cranes that can lift the same thing within 5 minutes and complete that for them. We are also in talks with various solar companies, Adani being one of them, to move solar panels for installation within their, let's say, solar parks.
Okay.
And we are the only company that has drones large enough to do that. Another use case is there are companies which build these high tension towers and cables in the altitude areas or remote locations.
Right.
And they have a lot of difficulty moving aggregates. They have to move stone, sand, cement, the actual parts to build the tower there. So typically, first they have to build the road to that location, then they move the stuff there.
Right.
So because we have a 200 kg payload drone, we are in talks with them, and soon we'll be helping a couple of tower companies actually move all the material for each tower by drone.
By drones. And when we look at defense, could you share maybe one interesting, deployment that you've done, or an example of sorts?
So we've had a lot of fun doing trials with the defense.
Right.
We've done trials all the way from Walong, which is extreme eastern of India, Tawang.
Right.
We've done near Malari in the central part, and Leh Ladakh, we have done the complete sector. We have done Kargil and Kupwara side. We won the Himdronathon last year. That was for altitude. And I would say one of the best experiences we've had is we were flying in Tawang, and this was at about 4,000 meters, and we had to climb to 5,000 meters, about a little more than that. And this was a place called PTSO Lake, and this was in the middle of January, and it was snowing, light snowing, and the snow became heavy. And we had one team on top waiting for the drone and one team take off, and we had no radio communication. And so we knew at a particular time the drone would take off, and this was the first major trial we had done. And it was amazing to see the drone climbing up through the hills. Actually climbed above the clouds at that level, then came back into the clouds, and then came through the clouds and landed where it was supposed to. And we kept getting glimpses of it coming in and out, and it was freezing cold. And it was, I think, about minus 14 or 15 at that point, and about 30-40 kilometers per hour winds. And it was really amazing. You had that icy landscape, you had a frozen lake behind you, and then the drone came and landed, and then we had 10 minutes to turn around, send it back, and then send back, and you can see it, you can hear it, and then you have no idea, and then suddenly you'll get the call, the drone is reached. So it was very interesting. Yeah.
Right. So what has been your most challenging drone flight or testing or mission, for example?
So I think we've done some high altitude testing in Varila.
Okay.
with a lot of gusty winds. And winds were gusting over 50, 55 kilometers per hour. And with an area, we had a similar situation in near Malari, forward of Malari, again at very high altitudes. And we were actually getting freezer burns, from the cold. And to reach that point was about a 3-hour drive through unbroken roads. And the army, we all went in a convoy there. And it was very interesting. So we had the drone takeoff, and we had to climb 700 meters and land in a place where no drone has gone. Helicopters also don't go there. And when we landed there, all the Jawans started clapping. Okay, now finally we'll get food in this area.
Oh
Right?
my God, wow.
So it was conditions like that. So that was a very challenging flight because it was on the side of a hill where we were taking off. A lot of strong winds coming and going, changing temperatures, snow. So probably that was the most challenging one. In fact, a drone had to adjust and almost flying sideways to compensate for the wind while coming down. Yeah, so that was very interesting.
So I'm sure like you must have these proud moments where you feel like your tech has done so much good.
Yeah.
So what are these some moments, let's say this was
one of them. Tawang, the first time we did the high altitude was another one. Varila, when we took off at 17,000 feet, climbed to 18,000 and came back with full load. And that was another one. And 2 weeks ago, we were there flying for the first time 50 kgs at a height of 18,000 feet.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so it was very strange because we had, knee-length snow that we were operating on. And the sun, the infrared index was very high. So we had knee-deep snow all around us, and we were all working in t-shirts because it was too hot.
Oh my God. Wow.
So, and as soon as a cloud would come, you'd have to quickly wear jackets. But in those conditions, yeah, it was lovely. Actual temperature was around minus 20. And we actually flew to 18,000 feet and back. So that was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
So we were at a height where you could see the rest of the Himalayas laid out below us.
Oh, wow.
It was amazing. Yeah.
So I think now as you move on to, let's say, applications with the Navy, it's going to be a very different experience.
Yes.
How are you feeling about that?
So I think my team has spent a lot of time in snow and cold, and I think we're looking forward to spending some time on the beach and flying drones from there. So that will be really good. Of course, the drones are modified again to work in those conditions. Yeah. Flying in marine environments is very different, much more corrosive as an environment. So we have different things that we have to look out for. But yeah, it'll be a good challenge. And
you would probably have like applications for, let's say, drone failure out of nowhere, and then within the sea itself, it's going to be difficult.
So we have flotation devices that we're coming up with for the drone. So even if the drone does land in the sea, it won't sink. It floats, so you can recover it and repair it and use it.
Right. I think within India, there's been a lot of people talking about different types of, let's say, public-private partnerships. So I've seen a lot of like space startups even doing, let's say, private partnerships. How do you think that's going to promote the ecosystem in India?
Yeah. So I think the good thing is the government has started pushing and making resources available to private industry. Right. So it's no longer the PSUs or DRDO that has to do it. They've made funds also available. They've made testing facilities available. If we want to go and test something in a particular area, it's very easy now. We can call up the ADB. They will assign a particular area and you can go and do it. If you want to do commercial private testing in Chitradurga, then in Nagpur, they have a couple of flight facilities where you can go and do it. Or basically, if you're in the green zone and you either rent or own the property, you can test within your facility up to altitude of 120 meters in this.
Right.
So, as I said, good regulations in place. They are very aggressive about partnering and getting the solutions. The Indian government is very, very, let's say, aggressive on Make in India right now. And that is a good thing. So that is driving the defense industry, that is driving private industry, that is driving PSUs to kind of start getting common solutions.
So I feel like when we talk about Make in India, imports have a big role to play. So in one of his recent speeches, ISRO chairman also said that, India needs to cut down on its electronic imports to really, promote indigenous making. What do you think? Do you think imports at this moment should be reduced, or, when we look at drone applications per se?
So there is a hype and then there is a reality, right? So the reality check is India is not poised to manufacture electronics today. We don't have the technology. We don't have the know-how. We don't have the, let's say, infrastructure to do it currently. We can do it. companies are scrambling now to do semiconductors in India. But to build a semiconductor plant takes years. It's not something that happens overnight. Plus, first it will be generic stuff that will be made, and coming down to specific for what the defense industry requires, it's a very small amount in the larger thing. Plus, what we require is very specialized.
Right.
And in the world, there is not everybody who can do it. There are a few companies. For example, if you look at thermal cameras, the actual cores are made by very few companies. If you look at communication systems, the actual core oscillators are made by very few companies worldwide. If you look at battery cells, there are 3 or 4 companies in the world that actually make it from raw material.
Okay.
So when you see these constraints, will our reliance on imports go down overnight? No. I think people need to kind of get out of the hype and have a structured plan that this is how we will do it over the next 2, 4, 5, 10 years. And then I think is when you will actually see the reliance going down. But it will take time, especially for specialized single-use equipment.
Right. And even when we look at like applications in agriculture itself, for example, like there's spraying that you mentioned one. What are the other applications that you're doing, within to promote agriculture itself?
So on the agriculture side, we focus on the spraying and also the, let's say, the crop intelligence. But the crop intelligence, Indian farm size are very small. So crop intelligence has to work at a district level.
Okay.
So, we have been trying to engage with the government that's saying, for every district, every couple of months, get the spraying, get the analysis and then tell the farmers in those areas that this is what needs to happen. But that requires a lot of coordination.
Right.
So that will take some time to come in, but it will come in.
I mean, it does require coordination and cooperation from the government
cooperation,
on like
time,
multiple levels.
Not only the government, private people also want. Right? There is a lot of things. The minute government gets involved, people think, oh, what are they doing? But that's not the case. In a lot of cases, the government is actually trying to help.
Yeah.
And we have to be cognizant of that.
Yeah.
Nothing will happen overnight.
Definitely. What other aspects do you think where government can, enter and help out? And for example, I have talked to a few drone startups before, and let's say regulatory delays are something that come up as an important aspect, because there's so many levels of, let's say acceptances that you have to go through that it takes a lot of time for them to even establish a certain kind of function. So what do you think about regulatory delays? Do you think that can be something that can be smoothened out by the government?
I don't think there are any regulatory delays.
Okay.
That is a misconception. The government has a very, very simple, very, very straightforward plan to get you to type certify your drone. Stage 1 is basically you get all your documentation together, you get all your drone tested by yourself and get ready. And they tell you exactly what you need to do.
Okay.
Then stage 2 is you have people from QCI who come with a consulting agency. And they will verify your documents. They will verify your drones, flights, and so forth. Once everything is ready, you make that package and you submit it to DGCA.
Okay.
And then DGCA gives you the type certificate.
Right.
It's as simple as that. It takes time. You can't have unregulated drones flying around everywhere.
Right. Definitely.
I think there are 900 drone companies in India. Out of which I would say 2 or 3% actually serious contenders. And even if we have all our drones flying, there has to be a way to track them. We have to ensure they meet certain safety standards.
Right.
So there are no delays as such. It's just people want everything instantly. That doesn't happen. It takes a few months, but it's a very structured process.
Right.
And it's a very good process.
Right.
Even in terms of imports, drone components you can import. Made in India is there, and they are now coming up. I know that DGC and QCI are working together to come up with a structure on how and what can be made in India. So it's not really simple of, in terms of monetary value. That you say, okay, 70% of my invoices are from India, so I'm 70%. It's not. It's what is designed in India, what is manufactured in India, what is used here. So it's based on many factors.
Yeah. And when we look at India's presence on a global scale, where do you think in terms of drones, India lies in like the supply chain, and where can we do better to actually stand out as a country who's implementing these solutions?
So if you look at actual usage of drones, I think after the US and Israel, India is the largest user of drone. The Indian military has been for a long time because Israel and India are the only 2 countries in the world that have active conflicts going on for the last 20, 30 years. So we need them. So we have line of actual control and we have a line of control, right, in 2 areas. So it's constant monitoring, constant use. Plus, within the country, we have a lot of terrorism. You have the Naxalite stuff, and then in JNK, of course, you have your
Right.
whatever's happening there. So active situations are there. So in terms of usage, we have been using for a very long time. In terms of development and manufacturing, I think in the last 5 to 6 years is where it has become easier for Indian companies to start doing it. A lot of larger companies are partnering, like Adani partnered with Elbit. There are other companies who are partnering, Tata Advanced Systems with some other companies, so on and so forth. But eventually, the Indian ecosystem is coming to a point. Idea Forge had sold a lot of drones recently,
definitely.
so which is a very good thing that an Indian company got to do that. And we are hoping to do that with the logistics drones.
Right.
And I think over the next 5-6 years, the Indian drone industry will come to the point where we will provide most of what India requires, with very limited imports being necessary.
Right. So when we say that, this is where somewhere we aim to reach in the next, so like 5 to 10 years, for example, at the moment, what do you think are the challenges, let's say infrastructure or like talent? Like, what do you think are the challenges that are preventing us to, that's taking time for us to reach at that stage?
So let's say the barriers to entry are, we have a limited resource pool. That takes some time to develop. Funding, for sure.
Okay.
Investors in India tend to think we put money in today, 6 months later you'll get a result. If you want to get into the drone business and really become sustainable, it will take a couple of years. And so investors have to have correct expectations, and manufacturers have to set correct expectations.
Right.
So we are moving the right directions. We are developing our own technology. We are adapting technology that is imported. We are learning from it, building our own. And it is going to be step by step and will take time. But we are moving the right direction.
Right. When we look at like talent, for example, a lot of people have been talking about, and there's been massive discussions on how India does have talent, but I think there's still a lacking of skilled talent per se when we look at certain implementations in certain industries. So do you think for the drone industry, the talent is skilled enough for, to just get them and employ them in the industry work?
No, we don't have a resource pool. For example, at Scandron, we train everybody that we hire.
Right.
The average age of my employees is 23.
Okay.
The oldest, I think, is 26.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, so it's a very, so drones are a very nascent technology. You have publications which have been talking about $10 billion in revenue and 2 billion and very big numbers. And they've been predicting this for 3 years and it's never come true. We are a fraction of that right now. And that's because drones are not a mature technology.
Right.
Yet people talk about drones as a mature technology. It's a very good technology. It is something that will have a massive impact commercially and on the defense side over the next few years. But it will take some time. Even if we make it, adoption takes time, right? You need allied infrastructure. For example, if we have cargo drones that can carry, let's say, 1 ton from point A to point B, you have to have infrastructure at point A and point B.
Definitely.
To handle that. So it takes time.
Yeah. So in terms of talents, you do have to, get into upskilling them.
Yes.
And do you think somewhere there's, this comes from maybe a lack in awareness during, that college or education level stage where people don't have, that much awareness of, these are the applications that I can actually, get into once I get into the industry. Do you think there needs to be like, let's say academia and industry partnership to a level?
I think it has not got much to do with the drone industry. I think it has more to do with the fact that there are too many options available for students in terms of specialization.
Okay.
So you have a lot of engineering students who come today who are specialized in computer science and this, but they don't understand the basics. Your basic mechanical engineering, basic electrical, electronic. So if you do have good, strong basics, then you can pretty much apply them to any industry.
Right.
But people come very, very super focused on something and then they find limited employability. Like what happened with computer science. Everybody wanted computer science, but there are no jobs now. Right? Even the people who have jobs are losing them. So I would always tell youngsters, get your basics straight. You can always find employment somewhere or the other if you have your basics straight.
Right.
And I think that is part of the problem. So you have a lot of people coming out of colleges with not much practical or technical education with them. That's very sad point, but it is.
Right.
Even coming from IITs, that standard has slowly dropped out
Okay.
over time. But there are good students. But I think our education system definitely needs
Focus on the basics.
focus on the basics and come back to understanding how to support an industry, as opposed to just you do something 3 years and get a job as in computers, right?
Right.
Like for example, even if you join TCS as a fresher today, you'll get 15 to 18,000 bucks maybe to start with. There are companies outside that pay much more than that, but the focus is
Yeah. So I mean, you've been partnering with a lot of, let's say, organizations as well, Indian companies, army, military, so and so. Would you be open, like as Scandron, are you open to like global partnerships? Is that something that you would like to delve into, or you want to build for India, be in India sort of thing?
so. We have no India-centric focus as such. Our focus is on India because India is the world's largest drone market. So our domestic consumption is much higher than any other country in the world today.
Right.
Even in the US and Israel, you have very high performance drones, you have ammunition drones. But in terms of logistics and the other part, India is the largest market in the world today. We are open to partnerships with any company globally for technology or for anything, provided they add value to what we are building. That has to be the focus. It's not a partnership. So you'll find a lot of companies, we have partners, this one announces a partnership with this, and what are they actually doing? Nothing. It's just a partnership announced and then it stays there. So where we see an actual value addition, and it has to be mutual, then the partnership makes sense.
And let's say, we're talking about benefiting from the partnership, doing so and so for each other. When we look at certain applications for your drone itself, let's say AI, in that, how are you, let's say, what are these kind of people that you're employing to work on these systems? Are you making any partnerships in, improving the AI ecosystem within drones itself? Bit on that.
So there is no AI ecosystem in drones. People talk about AI coming in, drones doing everything, they will find the target, kill the target, do everything all on their own. Right. That is only in the movies. The reality is far, far away. Today, where we are looking is basically intelligent algorithms to make decisions on battery energy consumption in terms of the flight environment that the drone is flying on.
Right.
One big point that keeps coming up is AI for navigation. Right. So the drone can fly itself using AI. And they're saying, if GPS gets jammed, then the drone should be able to look through the camera and fly AI. So all this is pipe dreams. That is not going to happen for another 20 years.
Okay.
One, AI processing for that much power happens only on the ground. Today you hear about swarm drones and all this, but all the processing for that is happening on the ground. It is not happening on the drone. Because power requirements, processing requirements are very high. So again, I think we have to come out of the hype and understand the reality of what's happening. So where we are employing is mostly towards, safety. AI is very good for handling safety. For example, if the drone GPS is jammed and the drone has to land somewhere, right? You're in an area and you can figure out if there is obstacle below you or not.
Right.
And if you're coming on top of a tree, you have to move a little bit to land. So these are small instances where AI will actually help a drone. On the inspection side, AI is being used or is going to be used, again, to process data. Like, for example, you have land surveys going on, right? So you can use AI to process that data, not to do the actual flight itself.
Okay, so more of like observation and
data processing, observation, supporting safety enhancements. This is where AI will initially play the role.
Right.
To have a thinking drone, for lack of a better way to put it,
right.
It's going to be a while.
Okay, and within AI itself, there's been so much on like synthetic data and simulations and training. Is that something you do for your drones? Like, let's say harsh weather simulations, and so you don't actually sometimes have to test the drone that much.
So we simulate conditions when we are designing the drones, but you actually have to fly eventually, right?
Yeah.
You can't fight a war in a lab. Similarly, you can't test everything in a lab.
Everything, right.
So eventually, once we finish our mathematical models and we have the drone manufactured, we have to go to all the different areas and actually fly them there. So we have spent, I think more than 4 crores in just moving different location to location testing in day, night, and all kinds of temperatures to to actually get that data.
Right. So essentially, to an extent, you do some sort of simulation and training in lab, but then testing is the majority part of it where it makes a difference. Right. And let's say when we like to end with let's say coming 5 years or 10 years, where do you see this ecosystem growing, and how do you see Scandron playing a part in this?
So I think in the next 5 to 10 years, you'll have a lot of consolidation in the drone industry. There will eventually, I think, be less than 10 major players. It's very expensive to be in this industry.
Definitely.
We have already invested close to 60 crores in R&D in Scandron, and we haven't seen revenue yet. And we are aware of that, and that is planned for. And we expect revenue starting towards the end of this year on these drones. So we had that kind of expenditure plan and the testing plan. So you need infrastructure, you need human resources, you need financial resources to actually stay the distance. The benefits and rewards are there if you are able to sustain and stay.
Right.
But it does take time. So there will definitely be a lot of consolidation. There'll be huge leaps in technology that will come up. And I think more and more you'll see drones becoming part of the mainstream. Let's say 4 to 5 years from now, not starting now. That is when the reliability will come in. You'll have unified traffic management systems in place to monitor drones. And I think that is when you'll see the explosion and actual mainstream adoption of drones.
Yeah. And when we, let's say, look at this year, can we expect any interesting partnerships or any interesting applications from Scandron that may stand out?
So in the high altitude, you'll see some very interesting thing coming out, and on the Pokhran side of it. And we are expecting some large orders this year.
Okay.
So that is something we'll be announcing soon, hopefully.
Okay. Thank you so much. And I've had a great conversation, learned a lot about drones and specifically applications in defense, which is something new, something different, and something that you're doing in India. So thank you so much for taking out your time and discussing that.
Thanks for having me, Sanjana. It was nice.
Thank you.